Gentlemen,
Woo.
How's it going?
I
We're
am
back.
joined tonight by Cooper and Tommy from Back Sports Page. Episode 40,
We coming.
the beginning of week number 22. We're almost at the half a year mark.
Got that right.
But before we get the show started, let's hit a little music, why don't we?
Agility from the champion. Oh, deep six! That could be it. Delivers this deep six.
Wrestling podcast fans, welcome. This is episode 40 in the beginning of our 22nd week. That's what I'm talking about. We are moving along. First
here.
day of fall.
Exactly.
I don't know how the weather is by you guys, but it is beautiful over here in Long Island.
Not
You
too
wake up
bad.
to- you wake up to about mid 50s and freezing cold, and by the end of the day, it's 75, and you got the AC on
Exactly.
leaving work.
Exactly.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah. We're creeping back up to the 70s, but we've been hitting 50s and 60s all week, and it's just been really nice. Pretty much almost jacket weather, depending
In
if
the
you're
mornings,
warm-blooded or cold-blooded.
Best kind of weather, honestly. At least in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
So we got a pretty busy wrestling week. We will be covering mostly WWE, but we have the G1 is underway. And if you guys don't watch New Japan Pro Wrestling, I would say that this is an excellent start to do so. The tournament has been amazing so far, only 2 days. AEW is building up to their next pay-per-view. Their 1 year anniversary show is coming in about 2 weeks, so their shows are going to be getting a little bit more interesting. Well, every single week is interesting on their show. I can't complain. Then we got Clash of Champions, which we'll be talking about today. We got some predictions going on for you guys, those of you that are listening or watching. And last night we just closed off Raw. We got a SmackDown with another go home show, and then we're right there, Clash of Champions.
Heard that.
So there's a lot going on in the month of September. Can't really complain about the fall season so far in the world of wrestling.
Yeah,
Nah,
it's kept
not
us
really.
busy, that's for sure. Yeah. Definitely kept us busy.
Raw
think they're-
ratings.
Oh yeah.
Raw ratings were down to 1.66 compared to last week was a 1.68. You guys have any answers for that?
Bruce
Yeah.
Pritchard.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly who I was going for. If you watched Monday night last night, it was a tough watch. I think they built up a big reveal that didn't really hit for me. Kind of seemed like I think Bleacher Report put it best. It seemed like somebody had just shown Vince McMahon a copy of Mad Max. So, wasn't a good one.
Well, one thing I kept seeing on Twitter, I pulled it up and I just saw Bane as a trending topic on there. And it's like, oh my God, really? And it made sense. I mean, I get it, yeah. But I don't know. This long con and with everything with Retribution, this sucks.
Poor Dominic Dijak.
Yep.
Poor Dio Madden.
Who else?
Mace.
Is in there?
Mia Yim.
Mercedes Martinez.
Yep.
Shane Thorne as Slapjack.
Jesus.
Dominic Dijak's new name is T-Bar.
T-Bar. Like, come on. Who came up with that? T-Bar?
How am I supposed to get behind this? This isn't MWO. This isn't Nexus.
Oh, even before this thing on Monday, it's ran its course. It's so freaking stale right now that I don't care anymore.
And there's no legit leader. Like there is not a strong name in this group for me
No.
to really like it. I'm having trouble. I'm having a little trouble getting interested in. I've been trying to give it a chance,
No.
but I'm having trouble.
Yeah, I've got no interest at all anymore. It lost me kind of from the beginning when it just seemed like a bunch of hoodlums and rascals running around and screaming and yelling at the camera and purposefully making noise. No, if you want to be a real group, if you look at Nexus, they spoke with their actions and they beat the hell out of everybody. And I mean, you want your groups like that. I mean, the Nation of Domination just killed everybody. They didn't do much on the mic and screaming way back in the day. You just think about it, any clique whatsoever together. They're the complete opposite, and obviously it's not working.
Yeah, I found it weird that they've been tying in Mia Yim's relationship with Keith Lee so much so. And then you have Keith Lee get attacked last week by Retribution, and now she's a member of Retribution. It doesn't make any sense. There's just so many open holes and open threads here that I honestly don't know if they were just like, we need some viewers for Clash of Champions, so we're gonna just hurry up the reveal now and push it. I don't know, but it was very lackluster to say the least.
Absolutely.
You can tell they're trying to do new things, whether it's good or not. And so far, it hasn't been great.
Nope.
But they are running against NFL football, which we had a very good game. New Orleans Saints versus, what do we have? Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah.
I gotta get used to saying that.
No, just call them Oakland.
Very good game with the Saints taking a very early lead and the Raiders making a comeback. I have fantasy guys. I had Kamara playing.
God,
which
dude,
he did
up
pretty good. Yeah, he I was down by 25 points. I ended up winning. The other team had the New Orleans Saints defense, and the Raiders were scoring on the Saints defense too, so that kind of helped close the gap. So I was very much interested personally to watching NFL football, and made sure that I got to Raw, watched a little bit last night, a little bit this morning, because I know we had a show tonight.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm not too sure if I would have watched Raw. And we'll get to more of it later, but there are a lot of inconsistencies. I mean, all of a sudden you have Angel Garza and Andrade, buddy and friends again, and they become number one tag team contenders. Out of nowhere, you had Seth beating Murphy to half to death last week, and all of a sudden they're getting along just fine in another tag team match. So not to mention, they're doing a storyline all over again that they did in 2005 with Rey Mysterio and his family.
That was
a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense, and you can tell that they're booking week to week, and you can tell that they're not too sure where they're going with Retribution. It's a mess right now.
I want to go on record and say I said this months ago that they will bring up his parentage, that they're gonna pull some shenanigans. And what if Seth comes out and says, "No, Dominic, Ray is not your papi"?
Well, we saw that last night, but towards the daughter, which we'll talk about later.
Yep.
So the Raw ratings are down 1.66. That's about an average of about 3 to 4 million viewers less than Monday Night Raw's heyday in the Attitude Era.
Mm-hmm.
They've lost. Think of it. They've lost 75% of their viewership.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you are,
that's a lot. And I don't know how the calculations come into play. If Hulu counts as a rating, if somebody watching 4 weeks later on WWE Network, if that counts, or if they're watching on a USA app, I'm not too sure how all the calculations work.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's an interesting time. One of the things that I've thought about for a while, and I know it's not easy to kind of sponsorships and all that stuff, but you just see so many people clamoring for Raw to go 2 hours for so long, and it's just I continue to wonder how long it'll take WWE to make that move, because NXT and SmackDown are so much enjoyable because you're not pushing your writers, you're not pushing all these guys who are making this show to come up with 3 hours of television. I mean, somebody put it best. It's like making somebody watch Lord of the Rings every Monday on repeat. And of course, Lord of the Rings is a great movie, but WWE Raw has not been very good. So I'm consciously waiting for when they decide to just move it to 2 hours, and maybe then we'll start to see ratings go back up, because people want 2 hours. People want to be able to just have something to, get through 8 to 10, and then they can catch the end of Monday Night Football or catch the end of something else. So it's an interesting thing to look at the ratings, but they need to do something fast, because you're right, the decline is incredible.
well, the fall season is historically the worst season for wrestling in general, as far as ratings go. That is.
I mean, you got to think you're nowhere near WrestleMania. You're after SummerSlam, Survivor Series. Yeah, it's one of the big four, but at the same time, it doesn't really progress much for it. I mean, you're at a lull from SummerSlam to the Royal Rumble, basically.
Absolutely. Moving on, NXT. COVID-19 outbreak. Their classes have been canceled. They canceled classes for now. For how long? I guess that remains to be seen. And it's also affected the way they are booking the matches. And Tommy, like we talk about how we how we noticed that there were kind of new names as number one contender to face Finn Balor. A lot of that has to do supposedly with the COVID-19. A couple names which weren't mentioned were pulled out as part of the plan, and the new names such as I'm gonna draw a blank here for sure.
Cameron Grimes.
Yes, Cameron Grimes.
I think it's Grimes, Kushida, Kyle O'Reilly.
Yep. Bronson Reed. Did
They announce the fifth guy? I feel like they did, and I must have missed it.
Yeah, there's a fifth guy mentioned.
But even
I can't think right now, but it was all fresh faces though.
Yeah, and going off of that, when you look at obviously you can't predict everything going on in the world. You can't predict injuries. Now we got a new face, not a new face, but Finn Balor being the NXT champion, allows them to go a different route. And now you have 5 guys who can really, people want to see them get that opportunity. And so I'm a huge fan of Kyle O'Reilly. So if he found a way to pull off that match, I mean, that'd be great. But now you're bringing in new faces. And we've talked about so much how you have to build up new stars. You can't just continue to have the same stars over and over again. And so, again, you can't predict everything that's going on. But I think it's kind of like a blessing in disguise that, WWE's allowed to, build up these new stars for a title match.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, Justin, I think you would agree that, there's a positive. I mean, you got to build new stars anyway for that main event scene.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Timothy Thatcher is the 5th name, by the way.
Yes.
Thatcher, that's correct.
So, yeah, the grappler and the kind of like the Pete Dunne, if you will, who's been missing. But yeah, I mean, these are all names that have just emerged within 6 months, less than a year now.
Yeah.
Besides KO, which I find very odd. He's just coming out of nowhere. But his little thing with Ciampa last week, I highly doubt he's going to win this or do anything. So that's just a subject for another day. But it's just another fresh face in there. But yeah, I mean, you've got these guys that are just, they were in the North American Championship ladder match. So, I mean, it was kind of a feeler match, it seems like, because most of these guys, a good portion of them have had matches like that. So between Reed and Grimes, Thatcher had that match at TakeOver. Kushida's
with Tony Lorcan, yeah.
Kushida's been around forever and never really gotten the push like everyone wanted, but he's had the character change a little bit and he snapped a little bit. And then obviously
he's been looking good.
Yeah, KOR. I've liked KOR for a long time. If you look at him whenever he's in the ring by himself, dude's got moves. He can strike. He can move decently. So I think we're gonna have a little decent match here.
Absolutely. It's going to be very interesting to see who's going to challenge Finn Balor for that title. Finn Balor has went on recently to explain to the fans that he would like to wrestle Walter, that he likes fighting that Japan style. So I could very easily see Kushida getting the win here and moving on to face Finn Balor. So a lot of the changes have been happening with COVID-19. I don't know why this is happening. There's been negligence going on. There are too many people in the PC Center at one time, and they're not wearing masks. A lot of questions to be answered there. Hopefully that it slows down over there. I know Florida has been hit hard in general with the coronavirus. So, okay. And one more piece of news. Well, two more actually before we get into our Raw review and our Clash of Champions prediction. Who do you guys think the SmackDown Mystery Woman's going to be? That's been promoted for the past couple of weeks.
I don't know. I really hope it's not someone who's been there for a while and it's just something dumb that they're doing. Of course, again, knowing writing recently wouldn't be a surprise.
Yeah.
Well, the SmackDown team of writing has been pretty good lately. I'm very curious. What do you think?
I wonder if it's going to be Carmella. We haven't seen her for a while, but I've also heard there's some rumors that it could be Eva Marie returning in some form.
Oh, wow.
So I
that
wonder,
could be it. I've heard something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be against that. It's again bringing in new faces. Obviously, she had her time in WWE and it didn't really work out a few years ago. But now she's had some time to get under her feet. And, I'd be interested in it if they give her a good character. It's not all about the ring work. It's mic work. It's the character in general. You could put them all together. That's what makes you a star. So I'd like to see if that's what it is. That'd be a good second chance for her.
Mm-hmm.
I can see it. What's that? What do you got?
Or what if they're throwing a curveball at us and the reports that came out this week that Melina's signed her contract even though she denied it, and they're trying to play this whole blonde thing up and throw us a little Trojan horse here.
Interesting.
And the funny thing is, you mentioned that was actually the next thing I was going to bring up. So supposedly, Melina, it was announced, news came out, and then there were more news of Melina diffusing that rumor online, saying that's not happening. But that very well could be a possibility. Not too sure how she'd look in blonde hair, though.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, remember when Sasha Banks first came back and she wore the wig and ripped it off, and she was the blueprint Sasha.
A lot of possibilities there.
Oh yeah.
Monday Night Raw. How about we talk about it? Not.
How about no Scott?
Definitely not a great show. I was able to get through it. There were a couple highs that I can mention out of it. But other than that, there was a lot of inconsistencies in the booking, as we've mentioned earlier on. But we see Retribution take over the beginning of the show. And then the Hurt Business comes out to fight, but they are overtaken by over a dozen of Retribution members. The Hurt Business actually look pretty good here. They look great coming out in their suits, but you know what's weird is they're coming out as the faces in this segment, and then they show up as heels later, and then faces later on. So some big time booking inconsistencies here, but they look great coming out of their suits. Good presentation. MVPs making Lashley look great. Shelton and Cedric Alexander is doing pretty good. Before we move on, any thoughts on this segment?
You know, I agree with you. I do think I've liked what the Hurt Business has done.
And that's my
Here
highs of
recently.
Raw, by the way, is the Hurt Business.
Yeah.
They look pretty good.
And I agree. I think even putting Cedric in a suit just gives off that vibe that he's different, and it's something that people have wanted since the 205 Live time. He just looks more of a badass. Honestly, it just makes him give off a different vibe. But one of the first thing that I noticed was they were like, oh. We Retribution says, oh, we've signed contracts, we've exclusive contracts or whatever. They've been on TV for like what, 6-8 months, something like that, and they just now signed a contract. Again, going with the booking inconsistencies, I was just like, it really does seem like they wrote this 30 minutes before, handed them their script and said, okay, this is what you're gonna say, and then we're just like, we don't know what's gonna happen. The segment just felt so flat for me. And, the whole Retribution angle I thought was cool when it first happened, especially when they debuted the Thunderdome. You have Vince McMahon come back and Retribution, comes out and gets involved. We talked about how Nexus, went after the big dog and John Cena in their first appearance on Raw. I mean, Vince McMahon is the biggest dog in the company. It just, the whole reveal just really felt flat for me.
That it did. Cooper, I could tell by your look that it fell flat for you too.
Even still, I mean, when you look at Nexus's debut, they came out, they surrounded the ring. Wade Barrett was calling the shots, and they whooped ass. That was what you wanted in a stable. That's one of the best segments in Raw history. In 25 plus years, a group of 7 rookies showing up, wrecking house, taking down CM Punk and John Cena all at once. It's short of Daniel Bryan choking out Justin Roberts with his tie. That's a little bit of an asterisk to that. But they just, their physical presence took over from second one, whereas Retribution, it seemed like a bunch of little punk skater kids who hate their parents and are just crying for attention right now. And I'm surprised they didn't have cans of spray paint just spraying the ring and everything. And the hooting and the hollering, the screaming every week and looking into the camera, the number of people that just randomly show up, anywhere from like 3 to 18 people. I mean, it's ridiculous. That's inconsistent. The number of people we're seeing every week too, especially from the beginning to, this last week. It sucks. It doesn't have my buy-in. I don't care. You see lights flickering on TV. Who cares? I mean, let Bray Wyatt flicker the lights. That's more appealing to me. I mean, they crapped the bed really bad on this group. And they let it ride out too long that I don't care anymore. And a lot of people don't care, which is why Monday sucks so bad. Was, okay, you've been here for, when did they get here? Like right after, or when did Thunderdome come out? Like June or something? It's like 4 months.
Yeah, but slightly before that. Slightly before. It's been going since maybe early August.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Early August, maybe a little of July too.
It's probably 6 to 8 weeks then. So yeah. But I mean, still.
Yeah, because it was right before SummerSlam. Yeah, that's when it was.
I don't care.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't care.
and that's the thing is, you have some talented people in this group, Dominic Dijakovic, Mia Yim, Mercedes Martinez. I just don't see a way that they can come back from this. I mean, they're literally setting their characters up on the road for failure, and they've been on the main roster for 6 to 8 weeks. It doesn't make sense. They're really, I mean, people are like you said, people are comparing them to movie characters because they look so ridiculous. I mean, they look like came out of Mad Max or Bane. I mean, CM Punk even commented and said something about, one of the dudes in the back looked like he just had a paper plate and cut it up and put it on his face. I mean, like,
That's about right.
I'm very confused on the fact that, like you said, they wrote it out too long, and now it's just no one cares. I mean, really, like, what are they going to do here? I mean, they're going to build up to what I presume a Retribution versus Team WWE at Survivor Series, and Team WWE is obviously going to win. So, what do you do with these characters? You're really just setting them up to fail.
If they do that, I'm not watching Survivor Series.
Don't say it. I hope it doesn't go that way.
It's got to. I mean, what else do they do? I mean,
they're gonna have Retribution's gonna have a match, like a 5-on-5.
That's the good stuff.
I mean, I can even see them hurrying it up and doing a 6-man. The same 3 that we saw in the main event. Do a 6-man Hell in a Cell. 3v3. I could see them do that. It's just, what's the point? They're gonna lose at some point, and they're gonna get beat by the superstars. Like your WWE's All-Star team, and then they're just gonna look weak.
I cannot wait to the day where Chris Conrad puts Bruce Pritchard on the hot seat about the Retribution. Due to legal purposes, I don't think Bruce Pritchard can talk about this right now on his show. I think he'd only go back to the old stuff, old pay-per-views. I don't think he can discuss anything recent.
I don't think he'd want to anyway. I think he knows that it's bad.
I really, really need to see Bruce explain himself about all this.
It's almost as bad as a salad steel cage from Impact.
Angel Garza and Andrade defeat Seth Rollins and Murphy and Dominic and Carrillo in the number 1 contender match. Again, booking inconsistencies we've noticed. Angel Garza and Andrade are all of a sudden friends. They're buddies after beating the crap out of each other on Raw last week backstage. And now everything is like nothing ever happened last week. And they'll be fighting for number 1 contender match this Sunday at Clash of Champions against Street Profits.
And we've seen that match. Like, that's one of my biggest gripes with this upcoming pay-per-view is almost all of these matches we've seen before. And you can pretty much predict the winner, who's going to win. And that's not compelling television. That doesn't make me want to spend $10 a month, to watch your pay-per-view. I want to see fresh matchups. And it's just, honestly, if what happened in that match was Seth Rollins and Murphy, where Rollins leaves Murphy behind, if that happened at the pay-per-view, I would have been okay with that. Obviously, nobody likes a faulty finish, especially on a pay-per-view, but give me 7-8 minutes of Rollins and Murphy versus the Street Profits. It's different, it's something that I haven't seen before, or at least haven't seen as much as we've seen, Street Profits versus Andrade and Garza. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, Seth and Murphy would have been the way to go here.
Yeah. I mean, kind of the Messiah retraining his disciple and disciplining him for letting him down. Yeah, that would have been a good move right there. And then him falling back into line. But yeah, this is almost as bad as old SmackDown, where you'd have a pay-per-view and we have a rematch this Tuesday night. It's like, why? It's like that's lazy writing. It's pathetic.
And also, where did Carrillo and Dominic come together as a team? Like they get a number 1 contender, like chance to earn a number 1 contender spot. Like it just seemed like they were just like, well, we'll just put them together because we need to find a way to get them on the card.
Because they're both Spanish.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
the explanation to that is Carrillo's been helping out the Mysterio family on and off throughout the early part of Mysterio and Seth Rollins feud. So they've been watching each other's back and stuff. So
yeah, that's true. It's just the fact that Wayne, me and you have talked to an extent of how bad WWE's tag team division is, and it just seemed like they were just saying, okay, well, we have this guy interacted with them like 5 weeks ago, so we'll throw them together, and we'll throw them in a number 1 contenders match just because we want to, get it on the card. It really is. I'm impressed almost at the fact of how bad and how inconsistent their booking has been recently.
Justin, what do you think of the tag team division before we move on?
I mean, they've got the wrong components scattered between two shows. SmackDown had it running on all cylinders for a while. It was a pretty good division, but it's just everything's falling apart. So New Day's gone. You got Nakamura and Cesaro just randomly paired together.
Usos.
Do what?
Usos. Jimmy is still recovering.
Yeah, he's blew his ACL out, if I remember right.
I believe so.
At WrestleMania. But and then you've got the Lucha House Party going for the tag team titles now.
And there's dissension in the ranks with the Lucha House Party.
Yeah. So I mean, they're just letting the house crumble right now on the tag team division, and it's so scattered between the two shows. No one's strong right now, and it sucks.
WWE needs to take some tips from AEW as far as how to book the tag division. For sure. It's not good. In my opinion, I think the only way to fix this is if you merge the brands. Well, no, not necessarily merge the brands, but merge the belts. Just have one tag team champion float on both shows.
Yes.
Just to maybe make the division a little larger.
And when I heard about Cesaro and Nakamura showing up on Raw, and then they had that interpromotional match, I'm like, please God, are they giving us what we need? And then now it's just gone.
Yeah. And that's the thing, go back to the original draft when they broke up the Dudleys. You saw Devon get a new tag team with Batista before he was, became Batista, and Bubba went with Spike. Like, it's just two different things, and I feel like that's what the draft is going to do, whenever it happens, is it's going to give us a little bit of hope that maybe things are going to be different. We'll get like a few new fresh tag teams, and then they're going to break them up or something, just randomly. They're just going to decide that they don't want to do them. And then we're going to get the same, whenever they're both healthy, Usos versus New Day, match number 400. It's bad. It's really bad.
This Raw vs. SmackDown stuff has to stop. We have other companies now. There's other competition. You don't need to have two shows competing within itself, making believe they're two separate companies, but they're not because they're all on the WWE umbrella. You don't need to do it anymore.
And that's what makes that was kind of one of my grabs.
I want to do NXT versus WWE. I'm cool with that. Have a little competition there.
Exactly.
Honestly, last year's Survivor Series was probably the best one they've done in years.
Exactly.
Because a fluke weather incident changed the entire complexion of it. And Triple H was like, I've got an idea here. And it struck gold harder than anything that's hit in years.
Yeah. And that's the thing is when you look at, you kind of see the whole Raw versus SmackDown brand warfare stuff, one show's attacking another. We all know they're under WWE. But when NXT was doing it last year, I mean, it was cool. It was entertaining. It was fun to see these guys get more TV time in front of a larger audience. And the matches that they put on Survivor Series were great. I honestly think that was one of their best shows top to bottom last year. Mm-hmm. And, WWE versus NXT is so much better because you can do something where it's, obviously nobody really wants to see Shane versus Triple H, but you can have something like that to where you got one brand that's fighting for relevancy, trying to get higher on the rank, that big brand that NXT wants to beat. And then you have WWE who's like, we're not letting you take our top spot. I mean, that story sells itself, but for some reason they want to try and make us believe that Raw and SmackDown are, they're not a part. They're not continuous. So we got to have them fight against each other.
Moving on, we see Aleister Black attack Kevin Owens during the KO show as Braun and Dabba-Kato, which we'll talk about really quickly there. There's really not much to talk about there. But we see Braun and Dabba-Kato face-to-face with each other in the ring. because Kevin Owens brings Braun Strowman out. Because at that point, it was 2-on-1 in the ring. So before anything could happen, KO brings Braun Strowman out. They're face to face. Then we see Aleister Black from behind trip KO. Nobody coming to KO save. I mean, don't they see what's going on in the corner? This booking doesn't make sense. But you see Aleister Black take Kevin Owens' legs, ran his gonads right into the ring post, for lack of a better word, right now to try to keep it PG here. You see Kevin Owens down on the ground. So it looks like we're going to see Kevin Owens versus Aleister Black eventually. I wouldn't be surprised if they throw it on as an extra match this Sunday, which from what I've seen hasn't been announced yet. But before we move on, I think the main focus of this segment was to get to Kevin Owens and Aleister Black and further that program. What do you guys think? I think this could be a great program between the two of them. See them go at it one-on-one.
Yeah, I
would absolutely love that.
I definitely agree. I think they're two of the best workers on the roster. If they're given the time in the ring, I think they can put on something special. The only thing, another booking inconsistency. Am I wrong on this, or is Aleister Black not had an eye patch for the past 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah, pretty much.
And then he randomly just shows up again, and he's wearing an eye patch to attack Kevin Owens. That kind of threw me off because I was just I was a little taken aback by that. But no, going back to what you originally said, I think these two could work really well if they're given a lot of time.
What do you think, Koopa?
Yeah, those two can work together, but again, you're running into a writing issue here. That's the constant theme of all this crap that we've been talking about and will talk about for the rest of the show. You got two guys. If you just let them go at each other, I mean, if you look at the matches that Buddy Murphy and Aleister Black had earlier this year, let them go, let them fight, let them call it in the ring. Give him the cheap pops and the cheap spots. We love those. Kevin and Aleister can deliver on those, especially Kevin. Kevin's one of my favorite workers in this damn company, and they're not letting him do his magic. So, again, writing is going to hold them back.
True. And while we brought it up, I may as well tie in Braun Strowman defeating Dabba-Kato in the Raw Underground. Now, let me tell you something. I got a problem with this. This would have been a great spot right here to build Dabba-Kato as a brand new formidable star right off the bat if Kato beats Braun Strowman in the Raw Underground. What do you guys think?
100.
Now, on his debut, which essentially the Raw Underground is his debut, I guess we can consider this officially his Raw debut because he showed up on in the ring for the first time. But in the same night, he basically gets beat. How are you supposed to build new stars this way?
They're gonna. It sounds like what they're gonna do is put him in a just random feud with Kevin Owens because they fought for 2 minutes on Underground a few weeks ago, and I agree with you. I don't.
Did Braun Strowman really need that win?
That's the thing is
that rub.
Strowman he's the kind of character that you can work with. He can take some time off, I think, and get that pop when he returns. Obviously, when fans come back, that's different. But he doesn't need – he was just in the Universal title picture. You can put him – obviously, he was fighting against Lesnar a few years ago, took some time away and was, winning the tag team titles with the child. And now he just had the title again, and now he's, fighting in Underground. He can take time away from the Universal title picture, and you can still build him up. I agree with you 100%.
They should have kept the two apart.
Yeah, because, again, another thing, they're booking themselves into a corner because now where do you go? Because now Kato looks like he's just another guy that Strowman, beat in an Underground match, and that's it. What does he do here? How does he regain that? Because he was dominant on Underground. He beat up Kevin Owens. I'm pretty sure he interacted with Titus O'Neil and Dolph Ziggler down there too. and now he faces Braun Strowman, and he's just relegated to nothing again.
We see Keith Lee versus Drew McIntyre. Drew delivers a Claymore kick to Keith Lee. Randy Orton attacks Drew from behind and goes after Drew's fractured jaw with the chair. We see Orton back. This is basically how Raw goes off the air. Oh, no. This was in the middle of the show. I'm sorry. This is the 9 o'clock hour. So, yeah, we see Orton attack Drew, and then you see Randy compressing the chair onto Drew's jaw. And then that's how that segment ends. Then moving forward, we see Zelina Vega defeat Mickie James with the backstabber. Zelina earns a shot against Asuka for the Raw Women's title at the Clash of Champions. We'll predict that match in a little while, but I guess we both we all know who's probably going to win that match. Then we see Lana and Natalya versus Shayna and Nia Jax. Here's another thing. So as those of you that are watching, and Cooper and Tom, as we know, Miro, formerly known as Rusev, is on AEW for the last 2 to 3 weeks. Made some comments about the brass ring and a couple of WWE comments, like a lot of former WWE wrestlers do when they jump shows. So, do you guys think that Lana is getting punished here a little bit by tapping out and getting put through a table 2 weeks in a row?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they'll take any little backhanded jab to deliver an FU right back to former employees. It's probably why Renee got out.
Yeah, I mean, Renee can't be anywhere for another 5.5 months. So as far as no compete clause, so I would fully expect her to be on AEW sooner or later.
Ouch.
Absolutely.
Most of those are just 90 days.
Yeah, hers is apparently 6 months from what I've heard. Shayna getting the win for the team by putting Lana to sleep. Then we see Shayna and Nia Jax in a standoff with the Riot Squad. Nia Jax putting Lana through the commentary table again for a second week in a row. Then what I believe was the main event, we see the 3-on-3 Retribution versus the Hurt Business. Couple interesting scenarios here going on. Basically, this match was to get to the build of the ending where we see Randy Orton RKO Drew McIntyre at the very end of the show, standing tall. Match gets thrown out when T-Bar, match gets thrown out when T-Bar, who was the legal man at the time, who hits Lashley to break up the Lashley lock. All of Retribution then comes out to attack the Hurt Business. Then comes out the WWE locker room led by Drew McIntyre. And then we see this big melee, which I thought was okay. You know, it was a nice little visual to see a big Royal Rumble going on in ringside. Then to get to Randy Orton with the RKO on Drew McIntyre, and that's how we end the show. And then one more point. What did you guys think of Seth Rollins? Where do you think they're going to go with Leah Mysterio? Does she align herself with Seth, or does she align herself with Buddy Murphy? What do you guys see going on there?
A ladder match at Survivor Series for the custody of her. Knowing WWE, would you be surprised though? I would be. I mean, we, like you said, you know, at some point it was kind of inevitable that they would at least bring it up in some facet, and here we are, and it looks like they are doing the exact same story that was while the two competitors that were in it, and Ray and Eddie, you know, they can tell a good story, and I'm not saying that, you know, whether it's Ray and Seth or Dominic and Seth can't. I mean, there's no reason to do this. There's no reason to go this route. I think there's so many better ways that they could have done it. and now we have, the custody of the, or not the, I guess who the parent is of the child, up in the air, and it's interesting to say the least.
We got a comment from Shamik Scheider. Thank you so much for watching and joining us tonight. Anybody who comments, you automatically become part of the conversation. So yes, you said still don't get why that was a DQ. Well, listen, every single match was a DQ last night. Everything. It was. I guess we could hashtag Raw. Last week was called Raw in Your Face. This past Monday night, last night, we can call it Raw Must DQ. Wrestlers break up the pin all the time. There were no finishes to those matches at all. It was DQs all over the place last night for sure.
Dumb.
Absolutely. Listen, you know what? We're gonna move on. But one more thing. So who do you think, if they play up this angle, who's Leah's dad gonna be? Obviously, we know it's not gonna be Eddie Guerrero. Let's forget that.
Too soon, bruh.
Yeah. How about Chavo?
God, Chavo. Oh.
That would be an interesting person to bring back. That's for
Is
sure.
he even allowed in WWE right now?
Exactly. Oh man, I mean,
I can't really. I mean, maybe they bring back Conan.
Oh God.
I can't think of too many people from the WCW days. I'm thinking if they're gonna go like an old school name from back in the day, like who would they bring back?
Hoopin' Dude.
If they go that, yeah, Psychosis.
I'm
trying to think of if they do the who's the father thing.
Do they still have La Parka around or anything?
Oh man, Survivor Series. How about we get the Leon a pole match, or hanging in the cage?
Oh, phrasing there, buddy.
You're the one trying to keep this show PG, aren't you?
Hey, listen, I don't know how they could possibly do a custody angle at this point. She is 19. Rey Mysterio made that clear, so they put themselves out of that possibility of custody angle.
Maybe if they ever wanted to bring back Terry Funk, this could be the story to do it. If you wanted one more match, this would be the one.
Mick Foley.
Exactly.
What if they brought I know she signed with AEW, but what if they brought like Vicky Guerrero in and like Ray supposedly had like an affair with her or something?
She is signed with AEW, correct? Like she has a contract under there. Okay.
Right.
She has a contract of some form. I don't know if it's a long term, like a year or two, or maybe she has like X amount of appearances contract.
Yeah,
I wonder, she's not in good terms with WWE right now.
Yeah. I wonder if they'd be able to do a trade or something. I mean, obviously they wouldn't want to because they're their competition, but I don't even think they could tell you what's going on with their story. I really don't know if they know what they're doing next week with any of their shows.
Not a great Raw by any means. I mean, it was kind of bad. I did like the Hurt Business. I wouldn't say it was unwatchable. They kind of they didn't put on such a great show. The payoffs was the big problem last night for sure. But Clash of Champions, here we are. What we advertised for you guys tonight is a prediction show. We figured it'd be a lot easier to do a Raw show and a prediction show all in one. And then this way it gets up on the podcast sooner than later, that the listeners can also be able to hear all the predictions of Clash of Champions before the actual pay-per-view. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So we will start with the first match we're talking about. The SmackDown Tag Team title match, Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro versus the Lucha House Party. Who do you guys have winning here? Starting with you, Koopa?
Shinsuke and Cesaro. They're hyping up this whole dissension with the Lucha House Party, and I don't really think anybody would be behind it with them winning the titles right now, honestly.
Yeah, the whole dissension. I think they're kind of trying to do the Freebird rule. Trying to even decide who's going to be wrestling in this match. I just don't see Nakamura and Cesaro losing to anybody anytime soon, because I just don't think there's a formidable challenger for them to actually lose the titles to. If they did decide to unify the titles after the draft, I'd be okay with it. But at this point, I just don't see them losing anytime soon.
Yeah, this is kind of a tough one because the Lucha House Party is a little bit on the downward spiral right now. Doesn't seem to be any cohesiveness and unity in that stable. A lot of dissension going on there, for sure. Namely Kalisto. But I'm gonna have to go Lucha. I'm just gonna go Lucha just for the heck of it.
That's a ballsy move right there.
Just because the writing's been so inconsistent lately, I may have to go Lucha for sure. I won't be surprised. Tom, you're very well, and Justin, you're very well going to be right. Probably going to have it, and probably 90% chance that the other team wins. But I'm going to go Lucha. I'm gonna see what they do here. That would be pretty cool, and especially since you mentioned it's a free bird rule. I always like the idea of the free bird. I think that's pretty cool. It would be something fresh for a little while. Raw Women's Title: Asuka versus Zelina Vega.
Why is this on the kickoff show? We talked about fresh matches, and obviously we know that Asuka.
The fresh match.
Yeah, exactly. Asuka's gonna win. We know that, but why is this on the kickoff show? This is where you put Street Profits versus Garza and Andrade. Get people, that's the whole thing, is you want to bring people in to watch the show. Pay the $10 to watch the show. This is a fresh match, even if we know the outcome. Let me see what Zelina Vega can do in the ring. We haven't seen a lot of her in the ring. Like, she's got a great dance partner in Asuka, and it's going to be on the kickoff show. It does not make sense to me. My pick is obviously Asuka. I mean, she's one of the best women's wrestlers in the planet, let alone in the company. I mean, she's not losing the belt here.
She's good.
They have shot her up really quick up the ranks. I don't know. It might be a little too quick right now, but there's part of me that says we got a smeller of an upset going on here out of nowhere.
Interesting.
I mean, is it too quick for her to win the title? I don't know. But at the same time, when they pick their favorites, holy shnikes, do they pick their favorites?
Do you really think they do that major of a title change on a kickoff show, though?
I don't know. I mean, I've seen gutsier happen. So, I mean, I don't know. I might have to take the upset on this one and play the odds.
Part of me wants to go Zelina Vega. I feel like I'm 50-50 here. I think, this is a tough one. So I think Asuka losing the belt will be a little too soon. Although she's been carrying it since WrestleMania, with the exception of about 3 weeks because of the SummerSlam build. So with the exception of those 3 weeks, Asuka's been carrying that belt since WrestleMania. So what does that leave us? May, June, July, August, September. So about 4 of the last 5 months.
Pretty much.
Whew, that's a tough one. You know what? I think they should try out Zelina Vega here. What the heck? It's the fall season. Give us something fresh.
I like it.
2 bold picks in a row for Wayne.
I'm pretty sure a good chance I'll be 0 for 2 out of those 2 matches. But
punishment for the show for whoever gets the picks all wrong, whoever does the worst. Someone's got to shave their head or do the Seth Rollins style in their hair.
Oh God! If I shave my head, I'll have to hide in my house for a month. So, yep, that's our Raw Women's title match that is on the kickoff show. The U.S. title, Bobby Lashley versus Apollo Crews. I have Bobby Lashley retaining. The Hurt Business has been doing some. I'm actually a little interested in the Hurt Business. Their presentation's been good. MVP's been great on the mic. I think Bobby Lashley retains. Who do you got, Justin?
Same. I mean, I didn't even know Apollo Crews was like even associated with Raw at this point, with everything going on with Retribution and Raw Underground. But yeah, I mean, to have as little hype as it's had, yeah, that's 100% Bobby right now. He's got too much steam.
Yeah, I know we talked about fresh matches and matches that aren't, same stuff we've seen before. I know Cruz hasn't gotten his rematch from when Bobby Lashley took the title off him at Payback. But, like you said, there's no steam. We haven't really seen Apollo Crews here recently. Lashley's not winning. Hurt Business needs a good win on the pay-per-view, and to continue their momentum. And, maybe we'll see them challenge for the tag team titles here shortly. But they need to continue. They need to have belts. They need to make them seem like a staple of the future. They need to have belts. And so I just don't see Bobby losing here.
Do you think that this match gets thrown out for Retribution interference?
Hope not.
I mean, there's a potential of them interfering in the main event match, which we'll talk about a little later. But
yeah, I would say that there's more. To me, at least, I think that there's more of a chance that they get involved in the main event than they do in this match. Just because of the way the pay-per-view schedule is set up, I just think it makes sense for them for that main event to go to, a non-finish. But I mean, you never know. They've been building Retribution up and with the Hurt Business for the past few weeks, so I could see it happen.
Raw tag titles, Street Profits versus Garza and Andrade. We've seen this about 20 times this year. We're about 30 weeks into the year. Am I right? No. Don't even tell me we're 40 weeks into the year. Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, close.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, this year is flying.
Close to 40 at least.
So let's just say at least half to 75% of every single week this year, we've seen Garza and Andrade against Street Profits. So about 20 and 30 times. I have to say that this is probably the match. If I'm forced to choose, gun to my head, pick one match that there'll be a title change, other than the main event, on this card, I think we're going to get Garza and Andrade finally winning the belt. I mean, how many times are they going to keep feeding Garza and Andrade to Street Profits? How many times are we going to see this? They don't win. But I think they get their win here.
Yeah, part of me wants them not to, because I know that they'll get the rematch down the line at some point and we'll see this match again. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why I'm going to pick Street Profits. But I mean, gosh, what more can you do in the ring that's going to differ from the other 50 matches that they've had this year? I mean, I always like Montez Ford's dive off the top rope. I think it looks cool because he gets a lot of air. But I've seen it enough. Like I've seen enough of this match, and it's getting stale, and it's definitely a kind of match that I'm not looking forward to on Sunday. So I mean, my pick is the Street Profits to retain. I think they lose it at some point here soon, but I don't see it to Garza and Andrade.
Yawn. Yeah.
Well, listen, it's going to be watching the four of these guys go in the ring. It's going to be fun to watch.
I mean, I don't deny that, but you're watching the same episode of a show again.
You're right. We're basically looking at Sunday Night Raw.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean,
for $10.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we've been watching the same stuff the whole year, same moves, same shtick, and I guess they're finally deciding to pull the trigger on them. So yeah, I got a title change too, but I mean, I don't know why now all of a sudden, whenever they were teasing dissension and a split up between everybody. I mean, are they trying to put Zelina, Andrade, and Garza all with titles this weekend. I don't know.
It's interesting. You got to consider who might move to SmackDown too as well.
Right.
You got to believe that one of these teams are moving to SmackDown. Absolutely is happening. Women's Tag Team Championship: Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax versus Riot Squad's Ruby Wyatt and Liv Morgan. See, I'm a little torn with this one. I mean, it seems to me I would say Shayna and Nia Jax are the favorite, but they've also been trying to build up Ruby Riot and Liv Morgan as trying to build up that relationship, that tag team back up again.
Mhm.
This kind of tough to see for me to see Ruby Riot and Liv Morgan lose together this soon. Maybe they're gonna split them up and they'll have a one-on-one feud going into the next pay-per-view. I'm not too sure where they go if Ruby Riot and Liv Morgan lose, but I have a feeling Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax retain.
I agree.
I'm gonna pick the Riot Squad here. Honestly, I just think, like you said, it doesn't, having them lose, so soon as them getting back together just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. And outside of Bayley and Sasha Banks' reign, I just feel like the women's tag titles have been hot potato. They've just been throwing it around to whoever. So I could see them doing this, and then we've seen the dissension between Shayna and Nia Jax, even when they won, they, didn't like each other, but they were doing it because they wanted to, get gold. And so I could see them doing a little program now with those two and having the Riot Squad win. So I'm going to take Riot Squad here.
Yeah, I mean, my only stick with this is it too soon for Baszler and Nia Jax to lose the title? So under those pretenses, that's why I'm led to believe that Baszler and Nia will retain. I'm just not too sure where they're going with the Ruby Riot and Liv Morgan. We'll have to see. If they lose, they could be going on to another one-on-one program. We'll have to see when we get there. This is probably kind of the tougher match to call out of all the matches, to be honest.
Mhm.
But I can see Shayna and Nia Jax. I feel like they have more legs underneath them for sure. SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley versus Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross's second time in a matter of 2-3 months that we're seeing two of these go one-on-one. We know the problems happening with Sasha Banks, with Sasha being out, with Bayley turning on Sasha. In my opinion, is the best or worst case scenario, the second best storyline in WWE right now. Yes, you could say that Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman pairing is the better storyline right now, or you can say that maybe Sasha Bayley is the more intriguing. But those two feuds are right at the top. But getting back to the women, I'm thinking that a couple things have happened here. I'm not too sure if we see Sasha interfere in this match or not. I'm not too sure if she comes out. If I were WWE, I would keep Sasha off TV to have her, play it off and play kayfabe that she's still injured. So this is another one. This is another tough one. I have to go Bayley, but then maybe you could see Sasha getting involved and possibly Sasha Banks costing Bayley the belt. I don't think that's going to happen now. I think they're trying to work towards a title match eventually between the two of them. So I'm going to have to go Bayley here. We could very well get an appearance from Sasha. Not too certain, no. What do you think, Justin?
I'm going to call Bayley retention, but there will be Sasha interference. But she's going to beat the crap out of Nikki because she wants Bayley to win this match, because she wants to take the one thing away from Bayley that Bayley cares about in this world.
I like that. Honestly, I think Bayley wins, but I don't see. I think they want you to think that Sasha is going to interfere, But I actually see Alexa Bliss interfering, and I could see them continuing the Nikki Cross, Alexa Bliss, the whole Alexa Bliss is kind of. We've seen everybody that's interacted with the Fiend has changed. And, she's obviously doing some of Bray Wyatt's moves and all that. I think they can continue that feud, and I'd like to see that feud. I think those are two people that you can put that have a good story. They were around together for a while, and it's something that would be interesting. We don't see Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross paths, or at least we haven't seen it to the point where it's gotten too much. So I think that's the way it goes. I think Alexa costs Nikki the match, and then we see Bayley and Sasha, whether that's at Hell in a Cell or Survivor Series.
What if Alexa, now that you say that, what if Alexa, the lights kind of start flickering and go out, and then out of nowhere they come up and you see this Fiend mask, but it's on Alexa?
See, but that would be cool. I'd be okay with that.
She's made the full transition.
Yeah, because she's brought back the pigtails, and she's doing the moves and everything. I'd be okay with that. I've kind of wanted them to always kind of do the Sister Abigail thing, but obviously Bray's gone a little bit away from that. But I think that there's a story that they could tell where they could put the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, and Alexa Bliss together. So yeah, I would definitely be down for that.
You know what, Tommy, I may have to, both your predictions sound great, but Tommy, I may have to lean a little bit more towards you on this one, because I just don't know. I think with Sasha being off TV this Sunday would be better for her to stay off and have her play more into the injury, because twice Bayley almost took Sasha's head off. Why are you coming back a week later and doing a run-in, Exactly. It just doesn't make sense to Sasha. I feel like
that's the good stuff.
Yeah, I think they would just be rushing Sasha back a little bit there. I have a feeling now that, Tommy, you brought up the whole Alexa Bliss thing, I have a feeling that we don't see Sasha, but then Alexa Bliss will be the factor, distracting Nikki, causing Bayley to win, and then a future match with Alexa and Nikki Cross for sure. That would be pretty good to see. We'll see what happens there. Intercontinental title match: Jeff Hardy versus AJ Styles. So Jeff Hardy, as you know, winning the tournament, if I'm not mistaken, a couple months ago.
It's
defeating AJ Styles, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, am I wrong if Sami Zayn's in this match too, correct?
Yeah, so that's versus Sami Zayn in a ladder match, a three-way. Jeff Hardy versus AJ versus Sami Zayn. So Sami Zayn coming back about 2-3 weeks ago, or maybe even closer to a month now, saying that he never lost the Intercontinental title. He was never pinned. He was never beaten, even though he wasn't around for a few months. So he's playing it off, kind of like the Shawn Michaels Razor Ramon feud in 1993.
Oh, look, another rehash storyline.
But this one's actually been pretty decent. Sami Zayn's been featured pretty well as far as wrestling. He's had a couple matches the past couple weeks. I've actually enjoyed him mixing it up with AJ and Jeff Hardy. Nice pairing there. I think they're going to have a great ladder match. I think this might be the potential show stealer, if you ask me. And I have a feeling that Sami Zayn comes out with the W here.
Took the words right out of my mouth. I was just about to say show stealer and Sami Zayn wins. I hope that Sami Zayn wins at least. I think we've never really been able to see him get the spotlight that I think he deserves, the spotlight that he had in NXT. And I love his character. I love his, I'm still the champion. I never lost it. I hope he gets the rub, because if he wins against two of the best wrestlers, in the company, and Jeff Hardy and AJ Styles, especially in a ladder match, which is Jeff Hardy's signature match, just talk about the way that would boost him up and especially give him more prestige to the Intercontinental title. So yeah, I think this is definitely going to be the show stealer, and I think Sami Zayn walks out here.
I think, because I'm thinking that AJ Styles is probably going to go to Raw in the next draft. So to me, I think that kind of gets AJ Styles out of the picture. Like he's just there right now. I don't think he gets the win.
Or are they flipping belts again?
They could.
I don't know. It's an interesting conundrum to say the least. I mean, it's hard to tell who's going to win this. I mean, is AJ going to take it to Raw? Is Sammy going to take his throne back that he never lost? Is Jeff going to keep the momentum of being the current Intercontinental Champion that he's had? It's hard to call right now. I really don't know who I want to go with.
And you know what? I think this whole storyline could be a way for them to logically make it make sense to get the belt back on Sami Zayn officially. That's why I got Sami Zayn. And you know what? They very well could move AJ to Raw with that IC title.
Give me AJ.
It's possible. They've switched belts before.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, sorry, belt switching brands.
Right.
But I think this is the match stealer of the night for sure. Get into the good stuff. Universal Championship match. Roman Reigns defending his Universal Championship against Jey Uso. We know who's going to win this one. Roman Reigns. I got Roman Reigns for sure. Do we see Roman Reigns? I think the question is, and I think you guys can both agree, Roman Reigns too. That would be a pretty big swerve if they give the belt to Uso, but I don't see that happening there. What I do see happening is Roman Reigns going full-blown heel on Uso.
Beating the hell out of his cousin?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm reading that it's not going to be the squash match like you think it is. Like Jay's going to get his shots in and they're going to trade some good spots. But yeah, after the match, I can kind of see that happening. But I think that's how we get the reemergence of the Fiend, because they're wanting him to somehow become a face. So I think that would be the prime opportunity after he's just waylaying on his cousin.
Obviously, I'm going to pick Roman as well. But going back to what we've talked about this whole podcast, this is fresh. It's interesting. I'm at least somewhat interested in this match because Jey Uso's never had a title match, to this stature, and he's finally getting that. And his character's different. I've heard that Roman is going to be, coming out with new music and not wrestling with a shirt on and everything. Like, it'd be interesting, but it's different and it's fresh. And that's what makes wrestling cool, is when it's fresh, when it's something you don't expect. I honestly think that we could see them do a stable whenever Jimmy comes back and have all three of them, be heels, Jimmy, Jay, and Roman. And then that's where you can introduce the Fiend. So I don't think it's going to be a squash. I think Jay's going to get his shots in, like you said. I don't know if the after match attack is going to happen, but I could definitely see, Jay turning heel in some form as well to go along with this match.
Interesting. I mean, you could definitely try to arrive at that point. Some people have said that I heard somebody throwing out that we could see The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 37, and then you see Roman Reigns little by little go through all his family members to get through to WrestleMania 37 with The Rock, including Rikishi, the other Uso, whichever other Samoans that I might be missing.
Yokozuna.
Don't dig Umaga up.
Both of them.
Oh man,
that's brutal.
I that might seem like a little bit of a long shot to me because of the Rock schedule, and Hollywood may not want him doing that.
I was going to ask, do you think? I just think that is too big of a match, and surrounding the uncertainty of COVID and what's going on in the next few months. Do you think that they would do that match in front of no fans? I think anytime you have The Rock back, they're going to push it off as far as they can to do it with fans, because they know that pop is just going to be crazy. And I think those first few weeks with fans, whenever they do return, is going to be entertaining television, because they know that they're going to have to compete even harder with their competition in AEW and in Impact, to where they're going to have to put on a better show. So I think we're going to see a lot more stars returning to get those, cheap pops, as they call them, to have fans get excited. So that's why I want to ask you, do you think that they would do that match in front of no fans if that's what is still going on in the world in, April?
Nah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that WrestleMania will be probably switched at this point to Tampa Bay, and then they'll probably do 25 to 50% fans in the stadium. So anything's on the table at this point, though. I don't really have a great answer for you right now. I mean, just look at what just to change off topic really quick. New Japan, if you watch the G1, it was 50% capacity, but it's so dark in there. It's fairly dark in there, and with the lighting, you would think that it was a full arena.
Yeah.
But 50% arena, every other chair, a fan was sitting in. So there's always one chair in between every fan, and you can look all the way up. And it sounded like a very full arena when they did their reaction.
Yeah, and I'm sure WWE can find a way to make it feel like, a packed arena. I mean, Thunderdome, while it does have its flaws, it's different, and it does give off a different vibe than having no one there. Yeah. So I just don't know if they would push to that story and get The Rock in here without having a full crowd.
Yeah. I don't know either. I don't think so. I mean, that's where they want to go and where they're going to end up going. They're going to be two different things.
Exactly,
sure. Could very well be two different things. Like you said, with the fans, what have you. And I think a lot of these promotions, AEW and WWE, had held back on some of their plans because of no fans in the arena. They want to save their best stuff for later. But yeah, I mean, I think we know Roman's going to win. I have a feeling Roman and Uso are not going to be together by any means. They're going to can't necessarily they're going to say feud after this, but I do have a feeling that Roman's going to go full blown heel. He's kind of acting tweener like right now. He's acting tweener like for sure. I have a feeling, hey, he turns on Uso for sure. And I'm not too sure how they work the Fiend into this. Maybe something towards at the very, very end, right before the show goes off the air. So Roman Reigns will retain as the champion, so that's happening. Then the WWE Championship match. We got Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton. I feel like the writing's a little bit on the wall here. This is probably the other shoe-in match that I feel like I can definitely say, other than what we talked about with the tag titles on the women's side and the women's title, whatever. I feel like there's a more clear picture here that quite possibly Drew could very well lose his title to Randy Orton this weekend. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of set up for him not to get pinned and lose in a different manner. So it still kind of protects him a little bit, but end up losing the title altogether. So, yeah, this is Randy's weekend.
I think my answer changes depending on where the match is on the card. If it's the main event, then I see Randy winning. If it's not, I see a no finish. I think Retribution gets involved in some way to set up a Hell in a Cell. I think this rivalry has the means to fight in a Hell in a Cell, and I think that is another way that you can kind of delay having Randy Orton take that title off of him, is have Retribution get involved here, cause a DQ finish, and then they can get involved in the Hell in a Cell and let McIntyre get absolutely trounced by Retribution, and then let Randy get the pin on him to where it doesn't look like McIntyre is taking too much, and that allows him to have that title in some way. So I really do think it depends on where the match is, because if they put it in the main event and that's what happens is they do a no finish, is we're going to start seeing the hashtag cancel WWE Network trends, because nobody likes a non-finish at the end of their pay-per-view. So it really does depend where this match is on the card.
So a couple of reasons why they're doing an ambulance match. One, in which I believe it was on WrestleZone, Dave Meltzer reported it. It's believed to be to Cooper, like you said, protect Drew McIntyre from losing the title by a pinfall or submission.
Mm-hmm.
That's one reason. And two, to sell the toys to the kids. Because I was watching a commercial today as I was at my job on the Golf Channel, and then I see, or it was Cartoon Network, somebody was watching cartoon, and a WWE commercial came up, and long and behold, you had a Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton action figure with an ambulance truck action figure, a toy ambulance truck. So WWE is clearly trying to push more toys for sure. So I saw the advertisement. I was like, "What do you know?" You know, that's another reason why they could be doing this. But anyhow, yeah, I'm not too sure if I'm not too sure if we see a continuation into Hell in a Cell. I haven't really thought about that, but I do know that this is probably about the time, if not any time between now and Survivor Series. But we're getting close to the time where Drew is gonna lose that title to get it on somebody else as a transition for the next 5-6 months before WrestleMania, where hopefully Drew will win it back in front of crowd. So yeah, I mean, this opportunity is set up perfectly for Drew McIntyre to lose the title to Randy Orton.
Yeah, and the only reason I say that I could see this continuing to Hell in a Cell is because I just don't see a rivalry that has gone on for as long as this one has, that has as much steam and as much heat that could lead to a Hell in a Cell. I mean, they could even, do a triple threat, throwing Keith Lee in the Hell in a Cell, just to make it somewhat fresh. I just don't see another rivalry on either show that could warrant a Hell in a Cell right now, outside of, Sasha and Bayley. But as we've seen with their pay-per-view Hell in a Cell, they do two, maybe 3 Hell in a Cell matches, on that night. So I don't see another rivalry that can match that.
Do we see Keith Lee or Retribution getting involved in this match?
That's kind of hard to gauge. I don't know. I know Keith is, not really involved in this pay-per-view, but I mean, I don't know.
No, but he has been kind of tethered with Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre for the past few weeks, and he has nothing else to do on this pay-per-view.
True.
Maybe somehow he gets inserted into this as a triple threat. And wouldn't that be something if he was inserted into a triple threat and wins the match? Wouldn't see that coming.
That's a long shot. Good Lord.
Yeah.
It's the gold rush. They're rushing for the gold. Just trying to rush the gold onto somebody. I don't know.
Yeah, what's with the taglines for every pay-per-view now? I don't understand that.
You'll never see it coming.
Yeah.
And you know what? We didn't see it coming, to be honest.
That's true.
I wasn't expecting it to be Roman. That's for sure.
It's an interesting time to be a wrestling fan, that's for sure. It's about the best way I can sum it up.
This has been a whole horror show for the year.
Great tie-in there. I like it.
Thank you.
I appreciated it. It's the little things.
Yep.
2020 has been an unforgettable year. Oh man. Yeah, so I see Randy Orton walking out of this for sure. That's absolutely happening. What happens after that? I mean, they're gonna revisit the program in a couple months. Who Otis with the Money in the Bank? What's going on there? Do we see an attempted cash in this weekend, or do we see Otis losing his contract in a stipulation match against like a John Morrison or somebody in the future?
Well, they have that lawsuit against him right now, and there's talks that he'll have to surrender the contract. So, I mean, there's all sorts of crazy stuff going on right now.
Another example of them backing themselves into a corner and not knowing what to do. So, I don't know. Any of those 4, or I guess 3. I wouldn't even count Tucker, Morrison, Miz, or Otis. They're not winning the title. I mean, they're not going to do anything with the Money in the Bank. So they need to find a way to either do it on a secondary title or do it on a tag title or something. But I don't understand what their thought was coming out of Money in the Bank with that.
It's like they wanted the feel good story, and then it happened, and they looked at it. It's like, oh, well, hold that thought. Keep holding it. Get back to me on that one.
Oh, he's still Money in the Bank champion or Money in the Bank contract holder. Oh, damn.
For a couple of weeks, like he wasn't on TV. Like I was like around July or something, or sometime in August. He wasn't on TV for a number of weeks for whatever the reason is.
Yeah.
I almost forgot that there was a Money in the Briefcase holder.
Yep.
Well, boys, we've pretty much covered everything from some wrestling news, the Raw review, and our predictions for this Sunday night's WWE Clash of the Champions. Boy, I am tired. It is 11:45 p.m. here on the East Coast. For those of you that are watching, listening, it is a late night here, but that basically wraps up Exit episode. I'll say exit episode 40. We're 40 episodes in to our Deep Six Pro Wrestling podcasts. If you haven't already, if you're listening, make sure you subscribe now on YouTube. We are also available on Twitter, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more. You can also visit www.backsportspage.com, where Tommy is a representative there writing about AEW, so you can catch his articles on there. They also have interviews with sports athletes, and they bring on their former WWE wrestlers and superstars of the past onto their website, onto their shows. You should check them out. They've been a good support of the Deep Six Pro Wrestling podcast. And also check out my friends over at the Living the Gimmick podcast. They got some great stuff over there too. I listen to that every week. Part of the inspiration of this show. But yet, guys, that wraps up 40 episodes. The beginning of week 22, we will be back with another episode this week covering AEW, a post show next Sunday night, and we will see what next week brings. But in the meantime, Cooper, thank you so much for hopping on. Tommy, thank you so much for hopping on once again, and we will see all you guys very shortly. Catch you later.